So, Dawn of War 4 got some campaign gameplay revealed to us through IGN recently, and in true IGN fashion, they said not really a lot, at least for anyone who knows about Warhammer and Dawn of War, so we're going to look a little bit deeper into this gameplay to see how the game really feels. Is it more like Dawn of War 1? Is it more like Dawn of War 2? Heaven forbid, is it more like Dawn of War 3? Let's have a look. The first question many have is there base building? And yes, there is. Just like Dawn of War 1 will now have separate buildings for separate things, and you can place them wherever the hell you like. In Dawn of War 2, it was just a single building that acted as your base, so it's nice to see base building fully back. Another question some have is there builder units, those that construct your buildings or repair your buildings? It seems like the answer is no, because we can see a build button here on the UI, not part of the unit, and when you hit this it opens up the build menu where you select which building you'd like to construct, and we can see the Gretchen here, which were the builder unit for the Orc army, and it does say can perform repairs, and I guess in a way building is repairing because the building kind of plonks down and then they repair it up. And also in the Orc faction video from Dawn of War, we can see goblins dancing around the buildings as they go up, so maybe they kind of do act as builders, although in one of these right here you see it looks like orcs are actually doing the repairing, so not entirely sure. Personally, I do hope there are builder units because they do add a layer of strategy. If you want to go in and take out the enemy builders, you can stop them producing buildings, you can stop them repairing buildings, repairing vehicles. But yeah, overall very nice to see base building return to the game, as it does add the fun of base building, but also the tactics and strategy of taking out enemy buildings and stuff like that, or build order and which to prioritize, etc., depending on how you want to play. And in terms of the currencies the game is going to revolve around, it's good old requisition and power, just like the previous games. And looking at the minimap, we can see this is going to work more like Dawn of War 2, where you have both requisition and power points to capture around the map. Whereas in Dawn of War 1, it was only requisition points to capture, and power was generated through buildings that you'd construct in your base. Although there's a bit of a Dawn of War 1-ism, as requisition points can be upgraded, which you could do in Dawn of War 1, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you could do in Dawn of War 2. You could upgrade the power points, but not the requisition points. But as we can see here, the player is going to upgrade the requisition point, and we see the animation for it upgrading here. So that's nice, I think, to make requisition points feel a little more important. In terms of the units, it's going to be the good old favorites, the same as Dawn of War 1 and 2 largely, but with the new additions up to 10th edition, we got like the Squigosaurs and Squighogs, so units that are new to Dawn of War at least, which will be pretty nice. And of course, your forces will be led by a hero who seem like they're a bit more in line with the rest of the army now, at least in terms of power. In that Dawn of War that we shall not name, heroes were kind of made the center, they were MOBAized and made too powerful for the rest of the units. And we can see some of the customization choices for Guzzcutter going on here. He can deploy a Bomb Squig as an ability, that's a choice. He also has one for Boss Pole, increases damage dealt, XP gain for Guzzcutter and attached unit, health regen as well. So that's one option. The other is Cyborg Strength, perform a melee attack that knocks the target down, damaging and stunning nearby enemies. And then we can also see that he has a few different weapon options as well, a few different setups, so you have some customization with your heroes to make them play how you want to. Very nice. And we can see the same thing with normal units here as well, some shooter boys. They can get a boss knob added to the unit, increasing the damage dealt. Looks like they can also get a grenade added here, and there's 2 more ability slots. Can't see what the actual abilities are, but some options for upgrading the unit and maybe pushing it towards a certain role that you'd like it to fill is going to require some veterancy, so you're going to want to try to keep your units alive so they can level up, get stronger, get these new abilities. We can also see that there's research that can be done with these Squighogs here. You can upgrade their capture speed with this little research. It doesn't seem to cost anything other than a bit of time, which is kind of weird. Normally you have to pay for your research in requisition or power or both, but of course this is a pre-release demo, so we'll have to see how it is for the final game. So all in all, with the way you upgrade heroes and units, it looks more akin to Dawn of War 2, which I think is a better system overall, having units that are just dedicated to doing one certain thing rather than the Dawn of War 1 style of having 4 different weapon options, and you can have one of each if you like, but that would be extremely weird and inefficient. And personally, I just pretty much built one weapon for one unit, and that they were the flamer unit, they were the missile unit, etc. But I believe this is in line with more how tabletop used to be, or is. I don't know, tabletop nerds, correct me by all means. But yeah, personally, I'm happy with the upgrade system for the units and the heroes. But how about cover then? How is that going to work? Well, in Dawn of War 1, it was just patches on the ground, craters on the ground that would say light cover or heavy cover. And if you stood in it, you'd obviously gain some protection from incoming fire. In Dawn of War 2, it was more of a Company of Heroes system where you put your units where the yellow dots are for half cover and green dots for full cover, but nowhere in the gameplay do we see any green or yellow dots, so we can assume that this kind of cover system is not in Dawn of War 4, and maybe it's more like a Dawn of War 1 system where there's just patches or craters on the ground you can stand in, or maybe it's neither. As we can see here, these two ranged units are stood behind some actual physical cover, so maybe this is all there is of a cover system now? Are these pre-placed here on the map, or can I build them myself wherever I want or in certain spots? Not entirely sure, but it seems like that might be how cover is going to work now. If that's the case, it's hard to know whether that's going to be better or worse for the game. On one hand, it might add some strategy to holding those points and making those points feel more important if it's just set place little barricaded areas, but it means most units will be fighting out in the open with not really any use of cover. But I guess there was a lot of that in Dawn of War anyway. Another thing we can notice pointing this towards being more like Dawn of War 2 is the retreat button we can see here. This wasn't in Dawn of War 1. If you wanted your unit to retreat, you just literally had to pull them back. But in Dawn of War 2, if you pressed this retreat button when your unit was in trouble, they would then run back to base. You wouldn't be able to control them anymore, but they would get a speed increase and a damage reduction, so more chance of them surviving basically, and you could save the unit potentially if it was in trouble. And this was all about keeping your units alive rather than them getting wiped out and losing their experience. You want them to gain veterancy so they can get those higher level abilities or war gear. Another thing we can notice is pickups around the map. You see this orc unit here goes up to a little health pickup and then gets healed. I don't recall ever seeing a health pickup around the map in Dawn of War, so that's something a little bit different, a little bit new. Not sure how I feel about it, because normally healing up the units is another unit's job. Like for the orcs, it's the Pain Boy or the Mad Doc in Dawn of War 1, I think. But what other power-ups are going to be around the map? Is there going to be like a damage boost one or a speed boost one? That's maybe a little bit too arcadey for my taste, I don't know. But overall, I think Dawn of War 4 is looking pretty promising. It's more like Dawn of War 2 with just a few Dawn of War 1 touches and a sprinkle of its own new ideas. Visually, the game is looking great as well. I don't think anyone can argue that. The new combat system looks very nice, the way the units interact with each other and actually have matched animations and such. The audio is sounding great. But watching this gameplay, I'm not entirely without concern. There's a couple of things. Firstly, numbers. If you look at the army down the bottom of the UI, it's 20 units. 20 freaking units. That's Total War level of units, not really Dawn of War level of units. And looking at some of this gameplay, it looks like it quickly descends into a mess like this, where there's just so much going on, it's going to be hard to actually find those matchups you're looking for and to use the tactics of your abilities and stuff like that. I mean, just look at all the units here. Look at all the different types of units. How the hell do you manage this mess? Now, it could be a case of a couple of simple explanations here. Number one, this is just a demo to show off some stuff. And as we can see, the pop count in the top left says 40 of 300, and it's a 20 stack. So obviously that's not correct. It's just for the demo. It's not really reporting correctly. Cool, whatever. But still, you can have this many units. It also could be the case that, well, it's an IGN game journalist playing, and they somehow managed to make their gameplay look like they've never played a video game before in their life. In fact, it might even be a requirement to get a job there, that you have to put on your resume you've never played a video game before. But to me at least, Dawn of War has never been about mass scale and having lots of units. It's about having a small handful of units and using them well, using them optimally, getting those good matchups and using their strengths against the enemy's weakness. I've recently played through the Dawn of War 1 campaign on the hardest difficulty, and I never used more than maybe 5 or 10 units at a time. If you watch any Dawn of War Pro matches, 1v1s, the armies are never very big. And so if this game is going for scale and thinks players want scale and massive battles that are just mashups of madness and you can't really see what the fuck is going on because there's simply too much to manage, well, that's probably not going to go down well. But by all means, other Dawn of War players, tell me, what do you think? Do you prefer it smaller? Do you want it bigger? Let me know. Maybe I'm the minority here. Basically, I just want it to stay strategic, stay tactical, and it's hard to do that when it's just a fustercluck. Out of interest, I wanted to see what a full population cap army looks like in Dawn of War 1, because I never really get anywhere near full cap, to be honest. And I guess it looks pretty big, but like I say, I never really get here. This is just me attack moving into the enemy base. I only put this on easy so I could build the cap, but undoubtedly old Dawn of Wars can turn into this kind of mess every now and again. But yeah, I don't know if I'm just a bad player or I'm doing something wrong, but normally I probably don't even get to like half the cap of what I could have, and I still manage to finish the campaigns and stuff on the hardest difficulties. So yeah, don't know if I'm just weird or whether there's just an excessive amount of cap. The other thing that bothered me was that the IGN guy went through the first 3 campaign missions of the Orc campaign and explained them a little bit, and this is the 3 mini-maps of each of those levels. And they all kind of just look like regular old skirmishes, just on a different map. And so I do have to wonder, is this just going to be every campaign mission is just a different skirmish? Because previously there was kind of set pieces. You might have a more linear mission where there's like a certain challenge you have to overcome on the way, and then you continue, and there's another challenge. or a couple of different ways you could progress through the map, so there was a little bit of freedom, but if it's just a straight up skirmish every time, then well, it's just a straight up skirmish every time. And I can't really tell just by looking at this, but it kind of feels like the maps are maybe kind of small, like there's about 5 requisition points and 5 power points on each of these maps roughly, and some older Dawn of War game maps can feel pretty huge, or some are very small, some are somewhere in between. But this is kind of looking like all these maps are roughly the same size, and if they're all skirmishes and they're all the same size, that's don't know, I'll have to see, I guess. It's hard to tell without playing it exactly how it is, but I guess I'm just worried that every mission is kind of gonna feel the same. But by all means, I could be wrong on the way I'm interpreting the maps and stuff, so I guess we'll have to see. It would be surprising if the campaign was just a different skirmish every time for like 8 or 10 missions for each campaign, because this is being made by the same studio that made Iron Harvest, and I know some people didn't like that game, but I personally quite enjoyed it. It was alright, I played through the campaigns. One thing the campaign did have going for it was the variety in the missions across the campaign. It wasn't just 8 skirmishes in a row. You might have one map that was a skirmish, the next mission you'd have to go and get some civilians from a city and escort them back out of the city and keep them alive. The next mission might be a stealth mission, you only use a few units, so there was some variety in the types of missions you were doing in the campaign, and that's what I'd hope for with this. Through a campaign, I want to experience different things, different challenges. I don't just want to play a skirmish every single game. I enjoy a good set piece, an escort mission, a defend mission, and assumedly the campaigns are going to be the biggest sell for most people. Multiplayer will no doubt have an audience, and I'm sure lots of people will get into that, but it's probably not the majority of people. Most people are probably going to play the campaigns once, unless there's a reason to play them twice, like a branching storyline or a different set of missions you can play, which I know there is to some degree with this game. Apparently there is going to be some choices to make, but whether they're actually meaningful, consequential choices, or whether they're just kind of fluff choices that give you the illusion of consequence, we'll have to see. But if the game wants to give itself some longevity, hopefully there is some variation in the campaign missions, there is choices that result in different missions being able to be played. That's going to give the replay value to campaigns while we wait for more campaigns to come along, because obviously they're going to do other factions, Necrons, Tyranids, Chaos, etc. So yeah, I have a lot of excitement for Dawn of War 4, but a few reservations until I can get my hands on it a little bit more. I have played a little demo from a while ago, but that's like probably a year old at this point, so I'm sure some things have likely changed, and I know nothing of campaign outside of what IGN has given us in this video. But yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully I can get my hands on this in the not too distant future and give you an update. And do let me know how you're feeling about Dawn of War 4. Are you looking forward to it? Are you excited? I'm sure we're all cautiously optimistic, even if you're new to the game or a returning Dawn of War player. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the future.